Alright guys, welcome back, and in this video we're going to be testing our APIs and we're going to be implementing them using the React query library that we just installed and configured. So let's get started. So on our feature right here, you can see we have the auth. So right now, what we need to do right now is to create another folder that will house all our API logic for the authentication. All the API logic for the authentication, we're going to put it right here. So let's go ahead and create that right here and we'll call it API. So right here, we're going to put all the API logics inside this folder. So the first one we need to do is we need to create some uh, the API route. We need to declare those API routes. So we can say um, URL query dot ts. Okay, so we've created that. Now we can export those routes. So if you remember, if we check our route, this is it /auth/login. So that's our backend API route. So let's go ahead and have that. So this will be login and this will be sorry, so this will be out login. Okay, yeah. So this is all we need to do, and we don't need to have a React key for that or a query key for that, because we actually, this is going to be a mutation call because we want to make an action. So we're not actually retrieving anything that we can, hash or anything. So let's just leave it like that. And the next thing is to we can just create an index.ts right here where we can just export everything from yeah, like we've been doing it earlier. So export everything from React query. And the next thing now is to actually build those requests. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new folder that will hold the request. We want to create a new folder that will hold the request. So right here we can go ahead and say login.ts. Okay, so this will hold all our login um, logic. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that login logic. So right here, we need to constant login with email, email and password. So that would be an arrow function. And right here, we need to also create another folder right here, which will be types. Okay, which will be types, and this will take the types of the login. Like we're going to define those type right here. So right now, what we just need to do right now is have an index.tx, and right here we're just going to export type, which will be the login credential DTO. So email is going to be string and password will be string also. So right now we can just go ahead and um, use that. So this will receive the data, and this will be a login credential DTO. Okay, so right now we can now try let's put this in a try and catch block, because we need to um, cache any error that comes with that request. So we do constant response response equal to await Axios. Remember, we're not going to be importing Axios from the library, but from the wrapper that we created. So this will be a post request. And right here, we can now say we want to try that URL. So this will be the URL that we created, which is login, and we can pass the data as that. And right here, we just return response the data. Okay, and this is just all we need to do. And on the error, we can just do error. Don't want to have the same name. We can do error, and we cast this as Axios error. You can definitely you can handle the errors anyhow you want. Okay, you can handle your errors anyhow you want, but I want to handle the error as Axios error. And yeah, that just gives us flexibility on things. Message, and the message will have a type of message, and this will be a string. Okay, so the next thing is to throw new error. Okay, new error. This will be error dot response dot data dot message, probably another message. Or we can just say, as if we don't get the message coming from the API, the error message coming from the API, we can just say request login field. And basically this is all we need to do, and we need to convert this to an async function. Yeah, the error is gone. And yeah, so the next thing to now do is to use our React query to fire that function. We need to use that React query to fire that function. And this, let's give this a type of use login option. So let's create a type option, and this will be config, in case we need to do some kind of configuration. This will be mutation config. This is from the config that we did earlier, and we give it a type of um, login with uh, login. This will take, it is going to take this type, but let's start with small letter. And yeah, this is basically what we need to do. And the next one is to use that use login with email and password. Okay, so let's go, and um, from there let's use login option options. Okay, this we initialize this as an empty object, and we destructure the config from this. Okay, this, yeah. So right now we want to do some few things, but for now our main focus is actually trying to make a request using this React query that we just created. So um, let's quickly go ahead and do that. So we're going to return use mutation from the library we created, because we don't want to be interacting with the library directly. So that's why we created the um, that's why we created that. So when we run into an error on those requests, we need to actually do some things. So let's just do console.log on error, because we already trained that error before. So the next one is we when the request is successful, we want to do some response. This will be a type of any for now. And right now, if we should do a console.log on that response, okay. What else? What else? Yeah, basically this. Let's do mutation function, the function that we want to run, which is login with email and password. The next one is we just spread the config, whatever config we have, we just spread that out. So we've created this login function right now. Let's go ahead and use it in our login form. So we say login form. We need to actually use this function in our login form right now. So let's go ahead and use that. So few things that we need to correct right here. Few things we need to correct right here. Number one is that we need to actually correct use put all of these forms this in the form that we created. So let's use the form component that we created earlier, and um, yeah. But before that, let's quickly go ahead and define a let's quickly go ahead and define what our form structure, the structure for our form is going to be, which is the login and the password. So for login form values, we're going to come here and extend the feed value, and this is going to come from React hook form. And right here, we just say email is a string, and we say password is also a string. Okay. So the next one is, yeah, this is what we need to do for now. Let's go ahead and bring in that form component. So that's from our components, don't forget. And right here, we cast it to a type, which is the login form value. And so we close that. Let's just close this form. Yeah. So right now we need to implement some certain um, options. So on submit, on submit, we need to create a function that we're going to run whenever we submit this form. So let's quickly create a on submit form. And yeah, so let's quickly go and do that. So right now, before we return right here, let's create a function constant on submit, and this will be an arrow method. And right here we can just do data, and this will be login form values, and we can just do console.log on what, on data. Okay, so the next one we can do is to we already have that form, and the next one is we can do a schema. The schema will be used to schema schema will be used to validate our form. So let's go ahead and define a schema. So right here, let's create another folder. We call it utility. So utility folder, and right here we're going to have a validation.ts. Okay, so we're going to have a validation.ts where we're going to have our uh, validation. So export const, if you remember, we installed YAMP the other time. So we're going to use it for the validation right now. So this will be login schema, and it's going to be YAMP dot yap. um, did we install it? Yeah, we installed it, but let's import it first. Import all as yap from yap. Okay, we definitely installed it. Yap dot object. Right here we can go ahead and now specify our fields. So the first one is email, and we do the yap dot. It has to be a string. It has to be a string, and let's go ahead and define other things. It is required, and we can give an error message. We can say email is required, and the next one is we can say it has to be an email. So we just give it a string. Invalid when the user failed this verification. Invalid email address, or we can say a valid email address is required. And max, we can say the max length for that is 254, probably. Yeah, because our database has a virtual type of 255, for that's the amount of length that feed can collect. So it's normal if we have it email, um, we call it email must be less than 254 characters. Okay, so the next one is we can trim this, but for additional security, I will advise you to sterilize or um, strip your string first, or the input coming from the user first before sending it to your backend. Okay, you can definitely do that, and this will be required. We give it a message, password is required, and um, minimum is let's put it 6. Let's just leave the message for now, and we say maximum is let's say 20. Mm, this sounds fair to me. It sounds reasonable to me to some extent. Yeah, for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to bring this, and yeah, so that's our sigma. And right now we can also pass the initial values to this, and the initial value is what you want the field to be like when the user just load the page. So the user hasn't typed, so how should it look like? It should look like empty. Okay, it should be empty. So that's the initial value, and we need to also do some things. Okay, so because we are using React query library, it helps us to you know hook up on some events. So for example, let's say um, register, because we need to definitely register our fields, our inputs. So the structure register, we take form state and from there we can get if any form has an error. So we see errors and is submitting, so that we know when the form is being submitted. And we say form is submitting. Okay, so that's that. And right here we can go ahead and open this up. Okay, so we can now drag all this into the form, probably we might not need to drag. We can drag all this into the form. So let's go ahead and drag that. And right now, let's put this outside the form. Okay, so we have all these values right now. So let's go ahead and use them with our input. So first of all, I want to register this input so that um, React form hook can actually know that. So the type will actually be email. Okay. So right here we can go ahead and register this as email. So we've hooked that up and we want to disable this if the form is submitting sub meeting sub submitting. If the form is submitting, let's just put this to form is submitting. Okay, we want to do that. And also if we run into any error, we want to also put that in, let's say, an error state or something like that, so that we want to change the css also, give it some red border, stuff like that, indicating that there is an error with that field. So we use the cn utility function that we created earlier, and right here we just pass this form to that, and if there is any error, so we say errors dot email. If there is any errors, then we have a border red, let's say 5,000. And if there is no error, we just have an empty string. Okay, um this looks fine to me. It looks fine to me. But one more thing that we need to do is we need to do errors dot email, so that we can definitely print out if there is any error messages. In our validation, we created some error messages, so we need to also print all those error messages out. So this will be small and test, let's say red 500. And yeah, so right now we just say errors dot email dot message. Okay, uh, we close that out. And yeah, so this is it. We need to also do the same thing for passwords. We need to do the same thing for passwords. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for passwords. So okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing for passwords. So for passwords, we need to first give it an ID, and the ID will be password, and the type will be okay. Right now we just need to do something right here, which is on our login page. We need to have like an eye icon right here, so that users can toggle the visibility of their password. So let's quickly go ahead and do that right now. So what else? Yeah, so let's create a local state that we'll use for that. So let's say const, this will be show password. We're going to set show password. Okay, this will use state of false use state of false. So we can come down here and use that. Okay, you can come down here and use that right now. So to use that, we just say if show password is true, then the type of this is a test, else the type is what is a password. Okay, so that's what we need to do. And we need to also register this So we just spread that out and say um, password. Okay. What else do we need to do? We need to check for errors. So if there's any error, we need to show that to the user. So to do that, we use the utility class that we created, utility function that we created rather, and just like we did earlier, if there's any error dot password, and we can go ahead and do border red 500. And right now we do this, and yeah. So basically, this is all we need to do. We need to also display this message to the user, um, but we call it password. This is for password. Okay, password. So yeah. So the next thing is to have a button that we can use to toggle. So this will be button. Um, this will be type of button. So this will be like a toggle type, and this will be link. On click this, uh, if we click on this, we want to set show password to the opposite of what we have there. So this will serve like a toggle this thing. So we can disable this we submitting if we submitting that form is submitting. And yeah, so basically this is what we need to do. We can say show password. If show password is true, we have this icon. So for this icon, we need to install some icons library, some icon library. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I have this React icons that we can use. It has really nice icons rather. So we can go ahead and quickly install them. So let's go ahead and quickly install them. Um, okay, so we're done installing that. Let's go ahead and use that icon. So I off from that package. Um, yeah, I off from that package, and we can give this a class. This is why I love this particular icon. Width 5, we can give it a default class, stuff like that. And right here we have the icon too, and give it a class h5 width 5. Okay, so we have that. So let's test this out. Come to front end. So this is not aligned, but if we should type and we click this, you can see this works, but this is not aligned. It's not within the it's not within what we actually want for our field to look like. So let's just quickly go ahead and fix that. um let's see what we can use to actually fix that. I think we can. All right, so let's quickly give this a class. So we can just quickly give this a class name. And right now, if we should try this again, you can see we have that right now. So it's a bit high, but you can just fix that with a little bit of CSS. We can do PT2 or something like that. Let's just put this to 1. Let's see that. Yeah, it's centralized right now. So yeah, this is what we need to do. And let me see if we're not forgetting anything. We're not forgetting anything. And on this button, we should put the type to be submit. So the type should be submit, and yeah. So let's quickly check this out and see if the API is actually going to work. So let me do this to the right. Okay, so let's go to networks. Okay, we can't test this right now. We can't test this. It's submitting. Okay, those are just default errors. So let's try normal password. Okay, and you can see we are getting the form data from the API. If we should refresh and try this again, yeah, so you can see we're getting all this right now. So which means we're on the right track. We're on the right track, and yeah. So let's go ahead and connect that with the APIs. But let's try the validation. If we try the validation, you can see password must not be more than this. Password must be at least, and if we try an invalid email and no email, yeah, you can see everything works fine. And the password, let's just leave it as password. Okay, the validation works, everything works fine. And the next thing we can do right now is to uh, send this over to the React query and interact with the database. So let's go ahead and use that mutation that we created earlier. So what we just need to do is constant, and we can say login mutation equal to use login with password. And right here, if we say constant is submitting, so whenever we're submitting that form, equal to login mutation dot is pending. Okay, this should be a function is pending. Okay, so that's the login state. Yeah, so right now what we can now do is we can use this mutation in our function. So to do that, we just need to login mutation dot mutate. Okay, login mutation dot mutate, and we pass the data into that. We pass the data. Basically, this is all we need to do, and that request just goes ahead and is being sent. So it's submitting. Whenever the form is being submitted, we want to display this. Want to disable all those fields. um, is disabled. Yeah, want to disable those field. Form is submitted, and right here when you're submitting that form, I just want to have this as is submitting. uh is submitting. If is submitting is true, we can have like a loading widget. We can have like a loading widget and say uh, login. Okay, login. This is fine. um let me do, yeah, this is fine. This is fine actually. Right here we can have like a div class name flex and item center and justify center. Okay, so we can have a div, and within this div we can just have like a loading icon or something. Let me see what I can get. Loader icon. Yes, right here. Yes, we can have this, and right here we can say login, login in 1 2 3. Yeah. So let's test this out. Let's test this out. Says no query client set use for why should we do that? Let me quickly check. So this is one of the errors boundary that we did the other time. So let's check that on login with. Okay. So this is saying that we don't have any query client set. So let's check and verify everything works fine. Let's just verify everything works fine. Let me see.